Welcome back to our channel, devoted viewers. Today is a truly fascinating day to dissect the labyrinthine power struggles and psychological warfare currently tearing through the heart of Genoa City. We have a monumental breakdown of the latest treacherous developments to explore. The landscape of Genoa City is currently shrouded in an atmosphere of suffocating dread, primarily centered around the spectacular and terrifying downfall of Phyllis Summers. Currently out on bail, Phyllis finds herself walking a razor-thin tightrope over a legal abyss, facing severe fraud charges orchestrated by the relentless Christine Blair. The sheer weight of the evidence against her is staggering, largely due to the brilliantly malicious artificial intelligence framework deployed by Victor Newman. This fabricated digital trail has systematically dismantled the Summers conglomerate, leaving Phyllis stripped of her corporate armor and exposed to the unforgiving machinery of the justice system. The internal conflict tearing at Phyllis is palpable. She is a woman who has always prided herself on her cunning and survival instincts, yet now she stares into the terrifying maw of federal prison. Her legacy crumbling into digital dust beneath Victor's ruthless boots. The tension is further amplified by the constant dire warnings from her longtime confidant and legal strategist, Michael Baldwin. Michael, navigating his own ethical and professional minefield, has made it abundantly clear that Phyllis is operating on borrowed time. He understands the precarious nature of her bail and the absolute lack of margin for error. Every single move she makes is being scrutinized by a district attorney who harbors decades of historical resentment toward her. Michael's desperate pleas for caution highlight the immense psychological toll this crisis is taking on both of them. He knows that Phyllis is a cornered animal, and cornered animals are prone to making catastrophic, impulsive decisions. The atmosphere in her orbit is thick with paranoia, as the realization sets in that a single misstep, a single arrogant miscalculation, will lead directly to an irrevocable criminal prosecution and the permanent loss of her freedom. Driven to the absolute brink of despair, Phyllis has resorted to utilizing the most dangerous and unpredictable trump card imaginable, the amnesiac Matt Clark. This decision underscores the profound depths of her desperation. Matt, a man whose historical legacy is built on terrorizing the Newman family, is now the fragile linchpin of Phyllis's entire survival strategy. She has secreted him away in a luxurious, heavily monitored suite at the Genoa City Athletic Club, booking the room under her own name to maintain absolute control over his environment. The irony of Phyllis Summers, a woman who has suffered her own share of trauma, relying on a monster to secure her salvation, is a testament to the dark, morally ambiguous territory she now inhabits. Her motivation is pure, unadulterated self-preservation, overriding any ethical considerations or awareness of the immense danger she is courting by harboring a volatile fugitive. Within the gilded confines of that hotel suite, Phyllis has assumed the role of a meticulous puppet master, exploiting Matt's severe amnesia with chilling precision. She recognizes that his blank slate is her greatest asset, allowing her to curate his entire reality. She dictates what he sees, filters the information he receives, and strictly controls who he is permitted to interact with. Every word he hears is carefully chosen to reinforce his dependence on her and to paint the Newman family as the ultimate, existential threat. This psychological manipulation is a masterclass in survivalist tactics, demonstrating Phyllis's ability to weaponize another person's vulnerability. Yet, this intense control requires constant vigilance, creating an exhausting internal tension for Phyllis as she must perpetually maintain the facade. Terrified that a single fractured memory breaking through Matt's amnesiac fog could shatter her entire carefully constructed narrative and turn her leverage into a lethal liability. However, Phyllis's fatal flaw has always been her arrogance, her absolute certainty that she is the smartest person in the room, which blinds her to the unseen threats circling her perimeter. Enter Patty Williams, a woman whose mere presence in Genoa City guarantees a descent into chaotic, unpredictable destruction. Patty operates on a completely different psychological frequency, driven by deep-seated obsessions and a fractured grip on reality that makes her incredibly dangerous. While Phyllis is entirely focused on outmaneuvering Victor and Christine in the legal and corporate arenas, she is completely oblivious to the deadly trap Patty is quietly laying right under her nose. The atmosphere surrounding the Genoa City Athletic Club is thick with an impending sense of doom, as Patty, the ultimate wildcard, begins to manipulate the pieces on the board. preparing to strike at the very heart of Phyllis's desperate survival plan. The mechanics of Patty's infiltration are chillingly simple yet devastatingly effective, relying on the exploitation of those who operate in the shadows of the hotel's luxury. The impending involvement of a hotel housekeeper named Marcy Goldman signals a catastrophic breach in Phyllis's security. Patty, utilizing her financial resources and her uncanny ability to exploit human greed, is purchasing Marcy's absolute discretion. This transaction is not merely about silence, it is about access. Through this illicit arrangement, Patty is securing the ultimate prize, a keycard to the very suite where Matt Clark is being held captive. This calculated move demonstrates Patty's terrifying lucidity when she is focused on a goal. She is systematically dismantling Phyllis's fortress from the inside out, bypassing the sophisticated security measures through the simple, devastating power of bribery, proving that even the most elaborate defenses are useless against an enemy who knows exactly which subtle pressure points to exploit. The implications of Patty successfully acquiring that keycard and removing Matt from Phyllis's custody are absolutely catastrophic for the embattled Summers matriarch. If Patty manages to spirit Matt away from the hotel, Phyllis's entire house of cards collapses instantly. Matt is her only leverage, the sole bargaining chip she possesses to force Victor to call off his legal dogs and retract the fabricated artificial intelligence evidence. Without Matt, the trial proceeds unhindered. Christine Blair will finally have the opportunity to publicly crucify her lifelong rival in a court of law. The domino effect of this single breach would be spectacular. The settlement negotiations would disintegrate. Victor Newman would emerge as the undisputed, triumphant victor, reclaiming his empire without shedding a drop of blood, and Phyllis would be left entirely defenseless, facing the grim, inescapable reality of a lengthy federal prison sentence. To truly understand the gravity of this impending collision, one must delve into the terrifying psychological warfare that Patty Williams wages. Patty is not driven by corporate greed or a desire for legal vindication. Her motivations are rooted in a profound, historical obsession that twists her perception of reality. Her history is a tragic tapestry of severe psychiatric instability, violent outbursts, and a desperate, unyielding yearning for a fabricated happily ever after. When Patty fixates on a narrative, she pursues it with a manic, unstoppable energy, obliterating anyone who stands in her way. The possibility that Patty is descending back into this realm of extreme, unbridled obsession is the most terrifying variable in this entire equation. She is a woman who does not play by the established rules of Genoa City's power brokers. She operates in a realm of pure, destructive emotion, making her impossible to reason with and incredibly difficult to defend against. The historical context of Patty's obsessions provides a chilling blueprint for the devastation she is capable of unleashing. One only needs to look at the smoldering wreckage of Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins' relationship to understand the lethality of Patty's focus. Her previous machinations, driven by her delusional belief in her destined connection with Jack, systematically eroded his peace of mind and fractured his marriage. Patty possesses an uncanny ability to identify the deepest vulnerabilities in her targets and exploit them with surgical, devastating precision. She leaves a trail of emotional and psychological ruin in her wake, fundamentally altering the lives of those she fixates upon. If she is now turning that same intense, destructive focus toward the situation involving Matt Clark and Phyllis Summers, the resulting fallout will undoubtedly reshape the entire landscape of the city, leaving permanent scars on everyone involved. The dynamic between Patty Williams and the current iteration of Matt Clark is a toxic, highly combustible synergy waiting to ignite. Matt, stripped of his memories, his identity, and his historical malice, is currently existing in a state of profound vulnerability. He is a blank slate, desperate for context and connection, making him the perfect, malleable puppet for someone as manipulative as Patty. Standing beside a traumatized man who has no allies and no grasp on his own dangerous reality, Patty has the unprecedented opportunity to mold him into whatever weapon she desires. Without anyone to warn him of the immense danger she poses, Matt is entirely at her mercy. This pairing of a historically dangerous man who has lost his mind with a woman whose mind is perpetually fractured creates a terrifying new entity. A chaotic force that threatens to tear through the carefully laid plans of every major power player in town. The Genoa City Athletic Club, typically a bastion of luxury and superficial social maneuvering, has now transformed into the epicenter of a perfect, devastating storm. Within its walls, the sheer desperation of Phyllis Summers, the fragile vulnerability of Matt Clark, and the manic, calculating obsession of Patty Williams are converging at a terrifying velocity. The physical space of the hotel itself becomes a character in this drama, its long corridors and closed doors hiding secrets that carry life or death consequences. The suffocating tension is built on the dramatic irony that the audience knows exactly what Patty is planning, while Phyllis remains blissfully ignorant in her false sense of security. The atmosphere is electric with the anticipation of the inevitable breach. The moment when Patty slides that illicitly obtained keycard into the lock and fundamentally alters the trajectory of all their lives. Watching this intricate, destructive dance unfold evokes a profound sense of melancholy and genuine anxiety within my own heart. There is something deeply tragic about witnessing Phyllis Summers, a character whose fiery resilience has always been a hallmark of her survival, being slowly suffocated by her own desperate hubris. My chest tightens at the inevitable realization that will crash over her when she discovers her fortress has been breached and her freedom stolen. Simultaneously, the resurgence of Patty Williams sends a very real, visceral chill down my spine. The brilliant, terrifying portrayal of her fractured psyche is mesmerizing, reminding me that the most dangerous monsters are often those driven by a distorted, desperate kind of longing. It is a masterclass in psychological horror wrapped in daytime drama, leaving me emotionally exhausted yet completely unable to look away from the impending wreckage. The sheer emotional weight of these legendary characters colliding in such a dark, desperate space is truly breathtaking to witness. Ultimately, Phyllis's current predicament is a tragic testament to the blinding nature of desperation and the fatal flaw of underestimating one's environment. Her intense focus on the macro-level threats, specifically Victor's corporate warfare and Christine's legal crusade, has caused her to completely neglect the micro-level security of her immediate surroundings. She believes she has outsmarted the titans of Genoa City, yet she is being outmaneuvered by a housekeeper and a woman driven by manic obsession. The absolute necessity of checking every single corner, every shadow, and every employee within the Genoa City Athletic Club has never been more critical. Phyllis is operating under the dangerous delusion that she controls the board, failing to realize that Patty Williams has already flipped the table. Her blind spot regarding the unpredictable human element is about to cost her the only leverage she has left in her desperate fight for freedom. The impending collision between these forces is a masterfully orchestrated crescendo of psychological tension. Every second that ticks by brings Patty closer to that hotel suite door, and brings Phyllis closer to total and mitigated ruin. The internal motivations driving each character, from Phyllis's frantic need to escape a prison cell, to Matt's confusing search for an identity, to Patty's terrifying quest to fulfill her delusional narratives, are clashing in a way that guarantees massive collateral damage. The stakes could not possibly be higher. This is not merely a battle for corporate control or a simple legal dispute. This is a desperate fight for survival, for freedom, and for the very sanity of the individuals involved. The atmosphere is thick with the promise of a spectacular, devastating confrontation that will leave no one unscathed. As the shadows lengthen in the corridors of the athletic club and the final pieces of this deadly trap slide into place, one cannot help but hold their breath. When the lock clicks and the door to that suite finally swings open, the fallout will undoubtedly be swift, brutal, and entirely unforgettable. Will Phyllis realize her fatal error before it is too late, or is her empire destined to crumble at the hands of Genoa City's most unpredictable wildcard?